Welcome to the Progtalks by the Prog Space. Welcome to the Progtalks, an interview series by the Prog Space where we will be talking to musicians in all corners of the progressive music scene. Welcome to the Progtalks with Uncle Prog once again, and today I'm very excited because I have with me two Israeli musicians, veterans of prog I would say, from Subterranean Masquerade, Tomer and Vidi. Welcome, how are you guys doing?
Hello.
We're doing
very good.
How are you?
I'm good, and I'm very glad you had the time to be on the show with me because I'm so excited to talk about Mountain Fever. When we're recording this, of course, the album is a few weeks out from release, but when you watch this, it might just be a few days until the whole world can experience Mountain Fever. So how are you guys feeling about the album? Have you already had some, responses? Are you excited now?
Very much. Very exciting. This album is ready for over a year. So it's been a long time coming, and the more we waited, the more eager we became to spread the music to everybody.
Of course.
And we are yet to receive a lot of responses. I guess that things are still a little slow, but slowly, and I'm sure they will come.
What about you, Vidi? You eager to have people hear the album now?
I'm very excited. I'm excited, and I'm nervous because this is actually the first album that I'm doing with Subterranean Masquerade.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. I am looking forward to see. I'm curious to see how the people that know the band in its last reincarnation with Kietel and Paul. I want to see. I'm curious about how people will receive it. But I feel good. I think that we're doing a genre that has a lot of open-minded people.
I agree,
and it's about progression. So I hope that people enjoy it. We like it. We're happy with it.
Yes, and of course I've had the chance to listen to the album, and I think people are in for a treat, to put it mildly. It's for me at least, it's a very good album. And but like you touched on, Tomer, the album has been finished for a very long time, but it's not out until now on the 14th of May. So what happened there? Why did it take such a long time?
COVID. We are a band that's based on touring. We very much like to get in touch with our audience, and we believe that touring is a major part in the success of an album.
Of course.
So we decided to wait. Yeah, we decided to wait. We don't want to miss the boat. We want to go on the boat again and play in Paris.
Yes.
And it's very important for us. So we decided to take a break with Mountain Fever until we feel like things are getting back to normal. And in the meantime, we prepare a whole bunch of video clips and extra bonus stuff that we can put out when the album is out.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win situation for everybody because we have a back office full with surprises. We just cannot wait to show to the world.
Yeah, I can understand that, sitting on an album like this as well for over a year and then just hoping to be able to go out there and be, play it live. And you guys are very much a live band, I would have to say, for anyone who listens to and enjoys your music, get out there and see you guys live because it's a amazing experience. So what can you say about the recording and writing process of Mountain Fever then? When did you start working on the material that ended up on the album? Because your last album, Vagabond, was out in 2017, right?
Yeah.
And then this album, I see it says is recorded between the Golan Heights and Fascination Street Studio. And you have David Castillo engineering it, and you have Jens Bogren mixing it. How was this experience of recording this album?
Well, we start writing the album the time Vagabond was in mix. So it's been a long time since starting writing the songs. And obviously when Vagabond came out, we decided to take a 1-year break from creating new music just to focus on the album we have and on promoting it and playing it live. And eventually about, I think it was 2 years ago, we decided we want to go and start recording the album. And we flew to Sweden, to Fascination Street, and had a week with David Castillo doing the drums, with Matan Shmueli playing the drums. And it was a great experience because he's just a master and he get the best drum sound I ever heard. And once we had the drums, we start recording more of the other instruments in our own studios. Yeah. Every one of us has a studio, and we can our own studio and whatever, and what we cannot in just other studios in Israel. So eventually we recorded in maybe like 10 different locations.
I see. Well, it's interesting to me because this album, even though your older albums I enjoy very much, this album sounds amazing. Especially the drums and the bass is really, really amazing on this album. So how did this experience of recording in Sweden then? Did you feel like it was on another level?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely taking everything on another level. As you can hear yourself, this album sounds better than any of our other albums. Because firstly, we get more mature as musicians and producers. But Jens and David and Fascination Street and everybody working there, they're just at the top of the game.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go for a record studio that make top-notch, high-profile albums for a high-profile band. We want to sound just like any other band that is playing big festivals. It was an easy decision, like a very easy decision, and you can see that did very good thing for our music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, the album, the lyrical concepts, or maybe the theme and whatever. And I believe you, Vidi, is the one who written a lot of the lyrics for this album, right? So
yeah, I have the lyrics, yeah.
Yeah, so with Vagabond, it felt like it was all about travel, about touring, about a journey. With this album, it feels like it's more, what can I say? If there's any journey, it's more inward spiritual than on Vagabond. Mm-hmm. And also, how does this album, does it have an overarching theme or a concept, or how did you approach writing for Mountain Fever?
Well, what happened was that Tomer came with the title. Tomer told us, listen, guys, this album sounds like a Mountain Fever, because Tomer wrote the music in the Golan Heights on what was used to be a volcanic mountain, a volcano, and it's numb. And Tomer sat there the entire winter, not being able to travel the way. Usually Tomer travels to India and to the US and wherever he's going when he wrote the albums in the back catalog, and this was written in Israel on a mountain.
Yeah.
And when Tomer told me, I'm a big fan of the music before I joined the band, and I really enjoyed and I could really relate to all the ideas about traveling and about being a nomad and about longing and yearning for something that is out there.
Yes.
But this thing that is out there, there's always a dialogue in Subterranean Masquerade's lyrics about what's in. And this time, because it was written in our homes, I felt that the right thing to do is to look on a different aspect of the journey. And a lot of it was about a person that is unable to move or to travel, but he's still forced to long for something, because longing is an inner force. So the main themes were about being in exile while you're still home. And this was about a spiritual journey, but it also was a lot about identity and about where we come from, and I wanted to take a look on the journey that my grandparents took to get here, and ask the question whether this sort of behavior still exists within me. So there was not like, a pure concept that we were going for, but I was trying to look at the idea of exile and the idea of identity in each song represents a different part, a different aspect of, like you said, of what we're looking inwards. But it could be love, it could be family, it could be roots, it could be fame, it could be any of these things. And I think this is what makes the album a little bit spiritual, because of that.
Yes, I agree with that, and I feel like this is just the title Mountain Fever, it sort of screams out to you. So and you said that it was you, Tomer, who came up with the name for the album. So where did that come from? Where did that Mountain Fever come from for you?
I live on a mountain. Well, it's not like the Norwegian mountains. Obviously, it's the Israeli-sized mountain, which is kind of it's still small.
A mountain is a mountain, right?
But exactly, a mountain is a mountain, and you get it with the people, and you get it with the chill in the morning and the chill in the evening, and you get it with the thin air, and being not able to travel as freely as living in the city. So it was written on a mountain, and I had a very hectic winter. We were doing the mixes for Vagabond, and I was listening to the album, and I had a hard time with it. And I said, I made an album that is going to be complicated for people. Nobody going to like it. And I want to record another album, and I start writing the music for another album as Vagabond was in mix. So it was kind of a hectic 3 months. At the end, I felt like I was having a fever, and I cured, because writing the music for the album and having those demos in a way cured me. So it was a mountain fever, and this was the disease, or the soundtrack for the disease, or whatever. And Vidi was coming out, the soundtrack for a disease, for a mountain disease.
Yeah.
And the lyrics fit very much the concept, because Vidi was taking the energetic movement of the music and translate it into words, and it was something that for me it was very hard time to do. I had especially in this album. So I'm glad that Vidi took it and did it, and I think together it's just the soundtrack and the book. You get the whole thing.
I find that that's interesting, Vidi. What you mentioned about conflict, maybe inner conflict mirroring a conflict without. Would you talk a little bit more about that? The conflict maybe between love and all these good emotions, and then the conflict of all the bad stuff as well. Would you say something more about that?
Well, I've been living for a very long time outside of Israel, until the end of 2017, when I visited Israel, and Tomer contacted me, and this is the relationship of Subterranean Masquerade. This is how it started. I've been living for a while outside of Israel. I've been mostly in Denmark, but roaming around Scandinavia.
Yeah,
and I was looking for some peace of mind for a very long time. I couldn't find it back home. Now looking back at it, and I had my bands and I had my tours, but I really felt that I cannot sit still.
Yeah,
that I cannot sit still, and that something's wrong. And I realized, during the years going to Scandinavia and coming back, I realized there were a lot of inner conflicts that were triggered by the place that I am a part of, my home. And I was looking for a different rhythm. And when I got to Scandinavia, I actually started to discover myself and realize what I want and what are the outer voices that became my inner voices. And I wasn't sure why I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing. Why is it that I want to perform so much? Why is it that I become sad when I'm back home? Plus, we had this thing here that my family was not very much approving of me leaving because of the fear of me not getting back. And this is something that my grandparents just brought in when they came from Poland and Romania. So there was a little bit, there was a sense of guilt with the people that didn't understand why I'm leaving. And I think a lot of it came like out in this album because it was about how come is it that I feel guilty that I need to move forward. And I couldn't always differ between is it guilt because of my morals and my standard, or is it guilt because someone else made me guilty?
Yeah.
And it comes in a lot of other aspects, but I think in the album, there's a lot of this thing that love and guilt are two things that bind you to a place.
Yeah.
It can be a relationship, it can be a country.
I think that's very, very interesting. And also, I wonder, you talked about traveling through Scandinavia, living in Scandinavia. And of course, I'm sure you and also you, Tomer, through your previous vocalist, Ketil, right? Being exposed to the progressive or metal music tradition of Scandinavia with, all the Viking and all the, that part of the music in black metal and whatever. And it feels very much to me like Subterranean Masquerade is like a Middle Eastern or Israeli answer to this, where your music is sort of drawn from your own background, your own influences, the history of the area, the nation, the music, the art. And it's fascinating to me. How would you respond to that?
I will answer a little bit, and I think Vidi will answer the rest because he came up with the lyrics. But yes, Subterranean Masquerade is who we are. I mean, eventually it will be kind of dumb if I write lyrics about fjords and Vikings, and I write music that is sucking the culture from who we are, the music we listen in the radio. So in every album we do, we have a prayer that is in a synagogue, and in this either on the Shabbat, which is the weekend, or Yom Kippur, which is one of those more sacred Jewish holidays. So we got music that is rooted in religion, and in culture, and tradition, and old tradition, not new tradition. And this is just who we are. So I guess, this is what it is. Yeah. And Vidi can tell you, because he write some of the lyrics has a biblical aspect to it.
Yes, please, Vidi.
Well, I'm too short to be a Viking.
Well, so am I really, but
I think I realized that when I was a teenager, I really wanted to be a Viking. I listened to a lot of black metal, but it didn't. It just didn't work. The mirror told me no. The best you can be. Do you remember the movie The 13 Warrior with Antonio Banderas?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, so I watched this and I said, okay, I can't be a Viking, but can I be Antonio Banderas? He had a cooler sword. He
did have that. Yeah. And he was a smart guy in that movie. Smarter than he was the smart guy in the group for sure.
I love this movie. I grew up with this movie, but I think that the point that I'm trying to say is that what I love about Scandinavian metal, and especially with Norwegian metal, is that once you press play, you know where it's from.
Mm.
There's this impressionistic thing that is going on. The landscape is there, the cold is there, the wind, everything is there. And this is wonderful. And I think that in a way, in a sense, that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah.
We want you to press play and come over to our house.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's very right. It's very true what you're saying, because some bands or some, like you mentioned, the Norwegian bands have that thing where you get transported into there. You have like some Canterbury bands from the England where when you listen to them, suddenly you're in the English countryside, and when you listen to your albums, suddenly you feel like you're part of the Middle East or you're part of Israel.
You can taste the hummus.
Yes, you can taste the hummus. But yeah, it's lovely like that. Yeah, but to move along a little bit, you guys have been on different labels since you started out. The first EP and album was The End Records, and then there was Taklit Music and Viki Solum, right? For the Great Bazaar and Vagabond, and now you're releasing your first album with Sensory. So how did that happen?
It's a funny story. The End Records, it's a record label I used to work at. I did many years working in, I used to live in the States, in California, and then we moved to Utah, and then eventually to Brooklyn. But I used to work for the End Records, and this is probably the reason why the first EP and an album was released on the End Records, because it was easy for me.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and it was a good label too. We had Green Carnation, Light of Day, Day of Darkness, and we had all the first Agalok albums and November's Doom, and you can see how I got to talk with Shetel, and how I got to talk with Paul Core, because we were on the same label.
Yeah, I own very many of those albums from the End, so that's very interesting to me that you were part of that. Yeah,
I worked there since 2000 to 2005. And then I took a big break from music and blah, 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 blah. When we came back to make music and I recorded The Great Bazaar, I released it on Taklit Music, which is my label. Just because nobody wanted to release.
So it was more or less a self-released album then, in a way.
It was a self-released album. I remember sending out promos to all the labels, and I got no reply from anybody. So, okay, I'm just going to put it out. And after this album, and we signed with management companies, then we got to deal with Viki Solum, which is a great label from Sweden, which released Vagabond. And what I didn't mention is that when I used to work in the States, one of my biggest competitors was the Laser's Edge, which is Ken Golden.
Of course.
We didn't like each other very much, because I came young from Israel. Okay, I want to bring, I cut the prices. I brought a lot of import from Europe because I had the contacts.
Of course.
And we didn't like each other, and it was a lot more. Eventually, when we wanted to release the new album, I got to talk with Ken Golden, and we realized that after all those years, we just remained good friends, and that we know the business so much, and we know it so well because we both got a lot of experience. It was just natural for us just to sign each other and to get these things working together. And I must admit that this is by far a great cooperation, and it's a great label, and it's very nice to work with people that actually believe in you and want to push you, and it's great.
I can imagine, and I'm glad to see you there. That's also a label with a long history of releasing great music, and I think Subterranean Masquerade is fitting in perfectly with a lot of the other great bands on there. But of course, there was an album between Vagabond and this new one, Mountain Fever? Because last year you released the pros and cons of social isolation with a lot of reworked tracks, right? That is tracked from your previous albums or whatever. And in addition, you had very cool cover track originally by Phil Collins. How did that album happen to come to be?
Vidi, take it.
Well, COVID struck very hard in Israel.
Yeah.
The first wave was, I think at some point we were the country with the most people infected.
Yeah, I think I read about it.
Yeah. So what happened was that we were not allowed to go anywhere. And it was really the beginning of everything. So, everybody thought that this is it. It's the apocalypse and goodbye. So we were stuck at home and we couldn't meet each other. We are living relatively to Israel. We're living far apart from the south of Jerusalem to Golan Heights.
Yeah.
And we just we couldn't accomplish with this thing. We couldn't be in completion and feel, okay, that's fine. We're just sitting here. So what we decided to do, because we really wanted to make music and we didn't want to release Mountain Fever. Mountain Fever was ready.
Yeah.
So, and we cannot tour, we cannot rehearse, we cannot meet each other. So we decided we're going to play a game. We decided that we are going to take the older catalog of the band, and we're just going to do an exercise in creativity. And each one of us just put all of his ideas out there on a track. So the rule was that there are no turning backs. Like what you're putting there, this is what's going to be. And we had a lot of fun making it. And it's kind of a crazy project. It's very weird.
Yeah.
We took ourselves seriously, but we didn't take it seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get what you mean.
And so we started translating stuff to Hebrew, and we started doing some weird trap hip hop, and we made like a cowboy song.
Yeah.
And it was mostly to keep the band in touch.
Yeah, active
and to keep the friendship. To keep the friendship in touch. We didn't want to say, okay, see you in a year. And this is this thing. This is the pros and cons of social isolation. This is exactly what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And who decided on Another Day in Paradise, and why?
I think that the Another Day in Paradise was Tomer's idea. We felt that it really fits what's going on in Israel. There were a lot of protests, like huge protests, and everybody were locked at home, and there was so much despair, especially in the cultural scenes, and especially for musicians in the cultural scenes. So Tomer came up with the idea, and then I thought, this can be really, really cool if we're gonna call all of our friends from Israel that they are stuck as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask them if they can sing a line or two. So it will be dedicated to all the artists here and all the people here that support all of the Israeli bands and the people behind the scenes. So we were very happy to receive yes from everyone we asked. So we got all of our friends there, and we just decided that we're going to have a blast. This was the idea, right, Tomer? Am I missing something?
Everything about this album was they just have fun, and especially this cover song. So yeah.
Yep.
Well,
so it's ironically fitting the idea behind the Phil Collins cover.
Exactly, and I think it made for a very good cover for you guys to do. It was surprising, but at the same time, it was very Subterranean Masquerade-ish.
Cool.
I'm a huge 80s fan. I listen to 80s music all day long. So I got a whole bunch of other songs I want to do 80s covers. So if you approve and you like it, expect us to come back for more cheesy 80s track, rap in the Middle Eastern, Subterranean.
I love that era of music as well. So if you do a full album of just 80s covers, you get at least one person who's gonna buy it here.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I got big plans for that.
If you are enjoying this interview, please head over to theprogspace.com for more reviews, articles, pictures and interviews all about progressive music. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. theprogspace.com. The band previously, as for most of the time, has had two vocalists. You know, for Vagabond, you had Kjetil doing the clean vocals, and then you had Paul and Eliran doing the growls or the more harsh vocals. So, and I've always had so much respect for vocalists who can do both the growls and the cleans, and especially live, going on stage and doing all that stuff. So I'm wondering, Vidi, what are the particular challenges with doing that live on stage? And do you have to take special care of yourself during a tour or something when you're performing these kind of different styles of vocalization?
First of all, I rest a lot in between. I sleep a lot.
Yeah.
To make sure that I restore myself, and I'm trying to eat the best I can.
Yeah.
So people are not going to have from me like crazy tour stories about alcohol or chicks or stuff like that, because I'm really nerdy about it. I really care that the show will be the best that it can be, and I'm trying to rest the best as I can. It was always that way since I was a kid in bands that I would go and do both.
Yeah.
When I was 13 or 12, I think I was 12, I got Orphaned Land's demo, The Beloved's Cry.
Oh.
And that was a game changer. I heard Metallica before, and I was very much into hip hop and heavy metal, but I've never heard like the death grunts thing.
Yeah.
And it was just the first record that I've heard that, Kobe, the singer of Orphaned Land, yeah, was doing both.
Yeah, I think that's also for me one of the early examples of that. And also, Dan Svane, I believe you guys worked with him for one of the early albums, right?
And The Great Bazaar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also one of the first early examples of a vocalist doing both the cleans and growls. And, I've always enjoyed the albums of Subterranean Masquerade, but it adds a little extra to see you on stage performing both sides of it. So when you are on stage, what are the challenging parts of changing up between the cleans and the growls?
Well, I practice a lot, so when we get there to the challenging parts, it will be on automatic pilot.
I see
what I'm doing, of course. But I think that the energy shifts can be pretty strong.
Yeah,
and you really want it to be authentic when it's happening and not just technical. So I think that. I'll say it that way. The biggest challenge was that we have in the back catalog really wonderful singers and big shoes to fill. And for me, at least, like I'm a fan of these guys and I'm a fan of the band. So I really want to respect what the people has been doing before. And I think that to learn this energy and the energy shifts between why is this part clean and why is this part grunted or screamed, like there should be a reason. Otherwise, there is no point. So I think that the main thing is not like a physical thing, but mostly a psychological thing of realizing why is it there in the same place from the start.
Yeah.
Like, why is the guitar playing a clean note now, and why is the guitar pressing distortion at that point? So it's all about the dynamics. I think the hardest part was that I really want the live shows to be very vivid and to elevate everyone.
Yes.
So I don't want to be the guy that is standing there and is like, okay, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. And I think that the movement with the body, the aerobics, was the part that I had to challenge myself, and the part that I actually need to rest because I'm climbing on stuff and I'm jumping on stuff.
Yes.
And at the same time, I'm shifting the techniques.
Exactly.
But as I said before, the technique shifts is less of a critical thing at the moment, because it's just from the age of 12, it's just what you hear. It's like a blues singer will hear blues all of his life. So does it answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does. And I find it very, very interesting. So thank you for being so, expanding on that. And
yeah, sure.
Taking that idea and sort of going out to the full music, it's the music of Subterranean Masquerade has always been very eclectic and adventurous, but this album seems to take that to a new level. There are some parts of this album, like the beginning of Diaspora, My Love, which is almost like power balladish. And then you have some, gospel-like parts on Somewhere I Sadly Belong, and the amazing brass section, and the saxophone solo on is that on Inside, right?
It's inward.
Yeah, inward. Yeah, inwards. Exactly. And then you have this track Mångata, which is really almost like symphonic rock style and all that mixed in together, but at the same time the album sounds like the most grounded album you've ever done. How do you explain that?
I'll say one quick thing, and then I'll give it to Tomer. We talked in the beginning of the conversation. We talked about the inability to sit still, and I'll leave you at that, and I'll give you Tomer.
What do you mean by saying inability to sit still? Actually, we are all hyperactive in the band, and we get to move a lot. And maybe this is the shifts between growls and clean and prog and rock and 80s and everything.
Yeah.
Just that we listen to everything. We are not the typical metalheads, audience. We listen to. We are experienced, both as musicians and as music listeners, and what we wanted is just to mix everything we like into our art, because we have no agenda. No. We don't want to make an album that sounds like something. We don't care about the genre, or even though we like to get good reviews and to see our audience liking us, we obviously don't do it for for becoming rock stars. We do it because this is the cure for the mountain fever, and this is the soundtrack for the mountain fever. It's the book, and this is a spiritual journey and everything. And now on this album, we worked together, all of us. I think it's the first album we did that I wasn't in control on everything, like I like to be all the time. And everybody in the band gave its own input. Vidi wrote all the text, and the vocal melodies, which is 50% of making an album. Shai, the keyboard player, he wrote the brass arrangements and the violin arrangement. Matan Shmueli on the drums, he's always great in coming up with crazy beats and ideas. And Jens and David Castillo and everybody we worked with had his own signature, his own trademark signature. And eventually you get together a bunch of experienced people to make music, and it sounds grounded. For some reason, it sounds good.
Yeah.
And
I think that when you go on a journey and you come back, you see the Norwegian mountains, and now it's part of you.
Yeah.
So it's leaking out. It's leaking out in the music, but it's still you. It's your perspective on these mountains. So I think that all the influences together, it's just like one entity that is using all of its memories and the stories and emotions, and just, I think maybe this is why it's round. I think it's a great compliment. Thank you very much.
Well,
I think
I also have to say quickly that, you talked about also early in the interview how you were, a little bit nervous, maybe, Vidi, because this is the first album where you are sort of so involved with the band and you're the main vocalist doing, and I've always loved Subterranean Masquerade, and I do really love the vocalist that's been on the earlier albums. I think Kjetil is one of my favorite vocalists with the Green Carnation, but there is something about this album with you on vocals that feels to me like the final puzzle piece has sort of been fitted into Subterranean Masquerade, and I feel it sounds more Subterranean Masquerade than it's ever done before. I don't know with you, Tomer, how do you feel about that now that Vidi's in the band? How did you find this guy, and how did you involve him in the band, and how is it working? Because it is like this album, when I listen to it now, is like, this is truly, like, I feel like it's 100% your own identity with this album.
I agree. I got goosebumps just from hearing you saying that. It's very exciting, and I may turn emotional, so thank you. And we are all from Israel, so we get to play together a lot.
Yes.
And although I'm a big fan of Kjetil, and a big fan of Paul, and a big fan of everybody we worked with, it's different when you get to meet the guy once a week and talk and hang out and play music and get emotionally connected and become very, very good friends.
Yes.
And I think it makes a difference. Eventually, you can hear it in the music. The bonding is so strong that we know each other. We can identify each other's fart smell. So this is how close we are.
I know the feeling, and it feels also like Vidi has been able to bring a lot of his spirituality into the music through his voice, of course, but also through the lyrics, which I truly enjoy with this new album. But I want to jump a little bit to something else now, because I only have you here for so long. And I always find it very interesting to hear about people's personal musical journey, the musical upbringing. A lot of people I talk to, musicians, they have this like aha moment when they heard an album or witnessed a performance, and they're like, I want to be like that. So, and also, when did you guys discover metal music and prog music, and how has it shaped you, Tomer?
Well, the aha moment for me is actually not metal. It's Radiohead doing a Kid A album just when it came out on amphitheater in front of 2,000 people. It was kind of intimate. It was a crazy summer in Israel. We had Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Madonna and Michael Jackson and Radiohead doing Kid A. It was insane. That was the moment where I remember saying, I want to be this guy. It was John Greenwood with his crazy guitar, weird noises. And I was always into, like I said, I grew up listening to 80s music. Yeah. But when I was 10 or 11, I discovered Guns N' Roses, which was a big influence on me. It's still a big influence and a big love. And heavy guitars and Seattle, Soundgarden and Nirvana. Mm. I only discovered death metal and more heavy music when I was 16. So I had few years of listening to mellow metal, hard rock, alternative music. and you can still hear it in the music. I mean, I like playing. I'm not playing as a proper metal a guitar player. I'm more into
yeah. There's
power.
a lot of hard rock riffing there with your stuff, which isn't necessarily, like you say, metal, but more comes from a hard rock feeling. What about you, Vidi? Do you have some experience or something that made you say, I want to be a singer, I want to be a performer?
I was singing since I was young. I was singing in all kind of municipal choirs and stuff like that. And I was very much into hip hop. Then I decided that I want to learn guitar. I got a guitar. I went deep into Metallica. And then my parents told me, listen, you are really lousy in math. So we are going to take the guitar away because you need to practice your math. So I just asked the microphone instead, and then it all started. It made sense to me, better than the guitar, because I hated doing the scales. I hated it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in bands, but I didn't have the instrument. It was confiscated, and I'm still lousy at math. It didn't work. It didn't work. And then in high school, I was doing all kind of punk and thrash metal stuff. I don't know when was the exact aha moment that made me do it all the time, because this was the only thing I cared about, music. I can tell you that I had a few life-changing moments after listening to Tom Waits and Scott Walker and Nina Hagen and Mike Patton and the Amanda Galas. When I heard Mr. Bungle, when I heard California, I was 17 years old, and I heard this album, and I was like, okay, this is my Bible now.
Yeah, that's a life changer for anyone.
Yeah, and that's it. I only started learning properly how to sing when I was in the army. I took the army salary and I went to a vocal coach, and she was, I didn't know. I was lucky. She was an avant-garde singer and a free jazz singer. Oh. So everything that I wanted to do was always weird, and I found a home. So I think my aha moment, my real aha moment, was when I first met my first teacher, and she just gave me tons of experimental music to listen to, and I became so in love with it and obsessed with it that I just sat home and practiced very weird noises. And this is it for me. My heart is in the avant-garde stuff.
Exactly.
And then I started enjoying kind of popish stuff, but I needed some hormones to go down a little bit.
Exactly. To balance it
in my body. Yeah. And I think that this album that we're doing now, there's a lot of pop melodies into it, but I cannot hide the fact that I'm really into the very weird things.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so great. It's accessible, but at the same time, it's complicated and challenging, and that's what makes me love your music so much. I want to ask you guys a little bit more, a general question about, because I find the Israeli and Middle Eastern metal and prog scene very interesting. From the beginning, it seemed it was like orphan land and you guys, and then over the, last 10 years or maybe, there's so many good bands that has appeared, Distorted Harmony, Efrat, Amazephyr, Stardust, Solstice Coil. Most recently, I listened to this band Storchi, with the daughter of, Yassi Susi, and I have to say, what can you guys tell me about this local scene of yours? Is there places for bands that play this music to play live? Is there a community? And also, is there other bands in Israel or Middle Eastern bands that you want to shout out a bit or tell our listeners about?
Go for it, Tomer.
Me? Okay. So Israel, there is great music scene overall, and great live and kicking metal scene. It's a small country, so everybody knows everybody, and you get to see a lot of those 4 or 5 bands events where they get together and get the club sealed for a day of hard rocking.
Like a mini festival or almost.
Yeah. But for the underground,
exactly.
Everything is underground. So the underground is very nice and strong in Israel. Unfortunately, there are not enough bands in here that can break the glass ceiling.
Mm.
And eventually, the distance is is not easy.
A challenge.
It's a challenge for a band in Israel. Sometimes it is not. You need to be open-minded a little bit just to say, okay, this is the Israeli band. Let's listen to it. I like Israeli music. It's not sitting, guys, in Norwegian music or in British music or Swedish music. Israeli music, the Israeli scene is not enough identified to be a genre of its own. But we have great bands here. You say Stardust, which are amazing, and Strucci, which are very, they are really pioneering in what they do.
Fantastic.
There is a band called Tomorrow's Rain. If you know, they just released an album last year, and they are very much a sister of Mercy meets Paradise Lost. Early Paradise Lost. Yeah, it's a really good album, and I can send you the link, the Spotify link, so you can check it out.
Please do, and I will put it on screen so people can check it out as well, of course.
Exactly. And we have a lot of really nice thrash metal bands like Scenery, and I don't know if you heard the name Shredhead.
No, I haven't, but there's lots of names here for me to check out. And being an old death and black metal guy, I know Salem, which was sort of the first Israeli band I ever heard, and which was an amazing band. They released really, really cool music back in the early 90s.
Yeah, they did Headbangers Ball. Like they had the music video with carcass artwork and Gorefest Erase. It was the golden age of death metal and Headbangers Ball. And they've been there. They are a very old band. They haven't played for a while. And their bass guy is just deceased a couple years ago. The guy who played the bass. But yeah, great scene. I will send you a few links, and if you can recommend them to
please do. I'll put stuff on the screen here for them to see. Well, finally, we're coming up on our 50 minutes, and I want to just quickly say, you guys are a live band. You are, have such good energy live, but now it's been, the ongoing pandemic has been a challenge to you as well as so many other bands. So what plans do you have for Mountain Fever? Do you have any plans now at all to be able to bring it out there to play? And since it's been finished for so long, are you already writing new stuff for?
Of course.
I knew that answer, but I have to ask. Yeah.
We're actually doing a launch show in Tel Aviv on the 1st of July. And we're going to play basically like 70% of Mountain Fever, among of other stuff. And we practice very hard, to get back, to get our muscles strong again.
Yes.
And hopefully everybody will get their vaccine soon everywhere, so we can go and tour and travel and play in front of anybody that want to listen to our music. And meet so many beautiful people that we met along the way in those few tours we did a few years ago, all those years ago. So yeah, we miss that. We miss the travel, we miss the road, we miss the energy and the adrenaline. Right, Vidi? You miss it too?
I need this.
Yeah.
You're ready to get out there again, Vidi, and do something for Mountain Fever?
Yeah, I'm climbing the walls here. Like literally climbing the walls.
I can imagine. I've seen you live, so I can imagine.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's pretty difficult to get dates marked
Of course.
and booked completely. We're hoping everyone will get vaccinated and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
We have one confirmation for a festival in Romania, Maximum Rock, and we're gonna be there. It's with Devin Townsend and Catatonia, and we're looking forward to it. And I'll just say this, on the 23rd of May, vaccinated tourists are allowed to enter Israel, and we are going to have a few shows here. And if you're into adventures, come over, write us, and we'll get some hummus together before the show.
That sounds great.
We miss everyone.
Yes.
So we want to see everyone.
And I think we, people who love Subterranean Masquerade, we miss you. So I want to say thank you so much for being on the Progtalks with me, Tomer and Vidi, and good luck on the release of Mountain Fever. For anyone watching, listening, you should check out their Bandcamp, their website, their Facebook and social media, listen to the album, or even better, purchase the album and really, support the guys. See, beautiful vinyl, yeah. Also, thanks to you who are listening and watching the show. Please like and subscribe, as it helps us out at the Prog Space a lot. So until next time, stay safe and keep spreading that prog love. The Progtalks, produced by the Prog Space. Main host, Rune Belsvik-Reinås. Produced by Rune Belsvik-Reinås, Vanessa and Matthias Kirsch. All graphics and animations by Vanessa Kirsch. Intro theme by Giuseppe Negri. Outro theme by Zach Munowitz. This was the Progtalks by the Prog Space. See you in a week.